Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the Village Board meeting, Tuesday, October 22nd, 2013. If we'd all stand, we'll have Trustee Yukich lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Costa?
Present.
Trustee DeVivo?
Present.
Trustee Kajanis?
Present.
Trustee Sabo?
Present.
Trustee Suisse?
Present.
Trustee Yukich?
Present.
Mayor Daley?
Present. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the accounts payable for the period of September 26th through October 23rd, 2013?
So moved.
First by Trustee Kajanis,
Second.
second by Trustee Costa. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Kajanis? Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. The next portion of this meeting is reports and communications from the mayor and other officers. I'll begin. Under Economic Development Update, staff has been keeping in contact with representatives from Myers, and they report that their doors will be open to the public in early summer of 2014. In addition, I would like to also welcome the new Albertsons to the Village of Homer Glen. As many of you know, the Dominic's will soon be an Albertsons Jewel store. Albertsons, the owner of Jewel Osco, has selected Homer Glen's Dominic's location as one of 4 stores that they will purchase from Dominic's. We're thrilled to have another major retailer join our business community. It's a testimony to Homer Glen that we are one of only 4 locations selected by Albertsons to turn into a Jewel food store. This changeover goes to show that big corporations know the Village of Homer Glen is business friendly. For some of you that don't know, when Dominic's closed, it's a total of 72 stores closed. There were only 4 stores that were taken by Jewel. 2 of them, I believe, were downtown, 1 was up north, and the other one was Homer Glen. So that really sends a signal that we're doing something right here in Homer Glen. Under Richards Building Supply Company, I'm happy to report on some great news. Tonight, we are joined by the representatives from Richards Building Supply Company as they appear before the Village Board to be considered for their special use permit for a final planned unit development. Richards Building Supply is looking to move their corporate headquarters from Cook County to Homer Glen. Good job. Richards is seeking to begin construction on their proposed 22,000 square foot corporate headquarters, which will be located at 12100 West 159th Street. I'm 100% in support of this fantastic addition to Homer Glen business community. I want to publicly thank Richards Building Supply for choosing Homer Glen. And furthermore on that subject, of all the plans that I've witnessed since I've been mayor, I've never seen a more consistent, non-complicated, non-variance type of set of plans since I've been here. It's fantastic to see somebody come forward like that. Okay, under 159th Street Corridor Planning Workshop and Open House. Next Tuesday, October 29th, the Village of Homer Glen will host a 159th Street Corridor Planning Workshop and Open House. The meeting will take place here in the boardroom, 14917 South Founders Crossing. The open house begins at 6:30 p.m. There will be a formal presentation of the preliminary draft plan at 7 p.m. and again at 8 p.m. Additional information on the 159th Street Corridor Planning Study can be found through the Village's homepage at www.homerglenil.org. Under Lockport Homer Fish Food Pantry, I'd like to take a minute to bring up an important organization that does a lot of good work for the people of this community. I recently received an email from the Lockport Homer Fish Food Pantry letting me know that the essential needs this non-for-profit organization provides to members of Lockport and Homer Glen communities. Area residents depend on this organization to supplement or provide food for their families. If you are able to, please consider making a donation to this worthwhile cause. A list of the basic supply needs can be found on their website at www.lockportfoodpantry.org. If you are unable to drop off provisions but would still like to help out, you can donate money through their secure site. All donated money is used strictly for the purpose of food purchasing. Again, their website is www.lockportfoodpantry.org. Under Achievements, congratulations goes out to the Homer Mustang softball team for recently concluding an impressive season, going 15-0 in regular season, winning regional and sectional titles, and taking second place at the Illinois Elementary School Association State Tournament in Normal. Trick or Treat Hours. A quick reminder for everybody. Trick or Treat Hours in Homer Glen will be from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Halloween Thursday, October 31st. I hope everybody has a fun and safe time. And that concludes the mayor's report. We'll start with trustees, and we'll start down with Trustee DeVivo.
And no report, Mayor.
Okay, how about Trustee Suisse?
No report, Mr. Mayor.
How about Trustee Kay Janis?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'll keep it really brief here. In our last Economic Development Committee, we reviewed the 159th Street planning study for the corridor. We had discussions, we made observations, and we also made some suggestions to Director Patch through her facilitating of the meeting. Director Patch will be carrying some of these observations forward, I believe, to the engineering company and to the committee as a whole. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Trustee Kay Janis. Trustee Sabo?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to report on, I'm reporting for the Environment Committee, and Hirsch Collins was a member of the Environment Committee, a very fine, active member. And about a week ago, he passed away. We were very sorry to hear about that. He was a active member of the VFW, and we are so sorry to lose such a fine gentleman. Reporting on Homer Glen Lands Day tree planting. The 11th annual Homer Glen Lands Day tree planting ceremony will take place on Friday, October 25th at 10:30 a.m. at the Homer Township Public Library. A large tree called the Celebration Maple from Tierling Nursery will be planted near the front entrance by Rick Gomez of Instant Shade, who has once again generously donated his services. The public is invited to attend. I have a quote here from Executive Director Sherry Kozolaha. She says that she and the library trustees are delighted to accept the donation of the tree during this significant year when the library building has been renovated and expanded. We commend the establishment of Homer Glen Lands Day and the wonderful community vision that brought this forward. We have made our commitment to conservation and environment within many library areas. The mature tree will be a lovely addition to the newly landscaped and naturalized areas of the library property. Next topic is the tree inventory and the Emerald Ash Borer Grant. A quarterly report for the Emerald Ash Borer Technical Assistance Grant has been submitted in October. The Environment Committee will be reviewing the EAB, or Emerald Ash Borer Management Plan report from Mark Dunneman of Natural Forestry Consultants, who has been hired to do the inventory. Next subject is Earth Day Arbor Day in 2013. The budget for Earth Day Arbor Day celebration was $5,500. The income from such sources as sponsors, vendors, sales, and a donation drawing was $2,504.75. Expenses were $6,494.05. We are pleased to report that the total cost to the village was $3,989.30, so that was definitely under budget. And each year, this fun and educational event becomes more popular and has drawn a larger crowd every year since its beginning in 2008. About 400 people attended in 2008, and it is estimated that 4,000 people attended in 2013. So at this time, the Environment Committee would like to ask this board for consensus to plan again in 2014. We start early. We don't like to wait till next year. So I'm asking the board at this time if they are interested in seeing that the Earth Day Arbor Day celebration continue.
Yes, definitely. It's a good event. It's a good event.
Okay, thank you. Is that a consensus then? Thank you
I
very
believe
much.
so.
Thank you very much. That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Sabo. Trustee Yukich?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be reporting for the Public Service and Safety Committee. So far with us passing the permits for the leaf burning 2 weeks ago, we've had 70 people come in and fill out the permits. We expect a lot more now that the season's going to be changing. So far, everything's working out very well. We have had a few residents call between the fire department and the police department and complain about some smoke, but it was taken care of right away. So it looks like everything is going good so far, and hopefully it continues that way. That's my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Trustee Yukich. Trustee Costa?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to hold my report for item I-6 on our agenda, please,
Okay,
which is our IGA.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes trustee reports. Does the treasurer have a report?
Yes, Mayor, I have the Treasurer's Report of Cash and Investments at September 30, 2013. It's the fifth month of fiscal 2013. It shows the general fund with cash and investments of $6,075,195.42. The motor fuel tax fund has cash and investment balance of $1,778,210.27. The park fund had a balance of $1,109,608.09. The debt service fund had a cash and investment balance of $284,387.93. And the last fund, the capital project fund, had a cash and investment balance of $25,567,359.05. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, John. Does the clerk have a report?
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Does the village attorney have a report?
No report this evening, Mr. Mayor.
How about any task force chairpersons? Okay, how about any public safety officials? Joe Mar? Does the village manager have a report?
Thank you, Mayor and Board. Real quick, a couple items. This Saturday is or this weekend is the Long Run Creek cleanup. Just real quick to remind everybody, we sent out 2 letters to everybody that lives on or adjacent to the creek, and we explained that the main focus of the program is if they themselves on their property have items that happen to be in the creek that they would like to assist in pulling out and putting on their parkway or in front of their home or on the side of their home. The highway department, it's been very cooperative and helpful. We'll definitely come by on Monday or Tuesday and pick it up for them and dispose of it accordingly. The other thing is we offered assistance to people that maybe had challenges themselves pulling items out of their creek. I think we have a list of a couple residents who have asked for help, and we've gone out and visited those sites and talked to them. We do have a number of volunteers who've signed up to help. I will say, depending on how the weather goes on Saturday, I won't send people out if it's 25 degrees. Weather this time of year, we checked everything in past years, and it was between 55 and 60, and we thought that would be okay, but we'll have to see how the weather goes here towards the end of the week. We do have some transportation lined up for people that volunteer. We do have a list of some volunteers. So if everything works out well, everything will go well. If for some reason we're not able to get to all of the residents that we have on our list, we've explained to them that we'll try to get to them in the spring or possibly next year's program, or maybe the township highway department could assist also. So it's worked out really good, actually, and I look forward to it this Saturday. I'll be out there with my boots and waders, and we'll see what we can do. On the 159th Street study, we got lots of good feedback from trustees and also from staff, village staff, and from several village committees. Trustee K. Janis mentioned his committee looked at it, and I know the Environment Committee under Trustee Sable's leadership discussed it. A lot of comments have been given to Janie, and she has compiled all those comments. And actually, I'm going to copy the village board on all those comments, so you'll see that in my report this week. You'll see a thick group of all the comments. The direction that we gave to Housel Levine, the report, the planning document from Housel Levine includes a lot of recommendations that actually come from Housel Levine. They're professional opinions and recommendations. What I've told Housel Levine is please review all these suggestions, pick the suggestions that you feel comfortable including in the report, and the ones that you do not feel reflect the recommendations that you want to make to the village, don't select those. But what I want the whole village board to see is the fellow trustees' comments and also staff's and also the committee. So I'll be distributing those this week. And then finally, just a direction of the board, we did do some advertisements, which you probably all saw in the local newspaper. We've done this leaf burning notice, which I think we still have another one to do, maybe one more. And I think that was really useful, a very attractive ad. I'm sure a lot of people saw it. And then you couldn't miss this one. This one was on page 3. And so if you were interested in the 159th Street corridor planning study, you definitely saw this. In addition to this ad, Janie and Aaron and the other staff members who were involved, I think we've sent out a couple hundred letters, right, to stakeholders, people that had been involved in the past or said that they wanted to be notified. So hopefully we'll have a good attendance at your special meeting next Tuesday, October 29th. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. That would conclude reports and communications from the mayor and other officers. The next portion of this meeting is public comment. Thank you, Joe. Okay. The first speaker would be Lou Volatero. If you'd stand, go up to the microphone and give us your name and address for the record.
Mr. Mayor, board members, my name is Louis Voltero. I live at 71 Nancy Lane, Fort Myers Beach, Florida. I'm here tonight because I want a width variance renewed for a driveway on 139th Street. And I have a flag lot there, and it has a 15-foot driveway. It doesn't meet the width requirements, so I need a width variance for it.
Okay.
If you have any questions for me, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you. Okay, the next speaker would be Glen. Go right ahead. Name and address for the record.
Glen Chudikoff, 2094 Old Briar Road, Highland Park, Illinois. I am corporate director of Richards Building Supply, and we are before the board tonight to discuss our application to build a 22,000 square foot two-story office building.
Okay, thank you. You guys write like doctors, by the way. William.
Hi, William.
Go ahead. Name and address for the record.
Yes, hi. My name is William Dorn. I'm the president of Project Management of Illinois, the contractor for the proposed development for Richards Building Supply, and I'm here tonight to answer any questions you might have. And my address is 8S692 Marie Street in Big Rock, Illinois.
Okay, thank you. The next speaker would be Linda Darling. Now I could totally read that. That was perfect.
Linda Darling. My address is 7 West Division Street, Lamont, Illinois. And I am Lou Voltero's realtor, and I'm here to support him in his request for the lot width variance. So if there's any questions that you might have for me later, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. The next speaker would be John Coy.
John Coy, 12056 Venetian Way, Homer, Glen. I I want to apologize. I can't make it to help you guys clean the creek, and I am a firm believer that it should be cleaned, but it's my wife's birthday that day, and we have plans. And I don't think she's going to let me get out of them. All right, now we're back to the project that I've been watching and trying to oversee a little bit, and it's the Angus Park Bike Trail. Now, at 143rd, the Safety Committee has to take a ride out there, look at that intersection, because you cannot get 3 or 4, an adult with a couple of kids side by side to cross 143rd Street, and there's no stop and go lights there. Somebody's going to get killed if you go single file crossing that street with your kids or somebody else's kids. I talked to Mike earlier, and Mike has really done a good job so far with that, with his communication with the contractor. Mike, thank you. That part's fine. I see on the agenda, now this may be way past my comprehension here, but we're going to have a consideration for our community flag. I think we should eventually maybe pay for it if the owner of this complex won't do it, but I think we need a flagpole, put it in front or back or someplace around here, because I would like to see when we have a special occasion that we have a flag out there. We haven't had one, so let's try and look into that too. All right? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, John. Joe Novak? Is that correct?
My name is Joe Novak. I live at 15823 West 139th Street. I'm opposed to the variance for the Volterra property. Don't know if now is the time to make my comments.
This is your chance, yes.
Okay. Initially, this was done in '07. At that time, the zoning board had mentioned that there was a, they weren't giving any flag lots at that point. There was a moratorium on them. The fire department was represented there. Their concerns was for safety, the length of the driveway and where it would be to be able to get safety equipment down there. At that time, the village engineer was represented. They went and looked at it for an environmental impact because there's wetlands back there. Now, you can't have a septic system. It has to be a cavitat system or something like that. The water would discharge right into wetlands. The neighbors have adjacent wetlands. At that point, it was disallowed, or they didn't approve it, and it came to this board and it was approved. At that time, we had 100% participation from all of the neighbors. There was no notification that it went to this level. We were unaware of it. There was no notification. Today, I received notification that this meeting was happening. So did several of the other neighbors. So what transpired back then, a lot of the people on this board weren't aware of. I'm also concerned with the flooding problems that this can impact on my property. To be in compliance with the building codes now, the driveway will have to be expanded and extended several hundred feet to the property in the back. I don't know how many flag lots have been issued in the last year, or the last 2 years, or 3 years. I've tried to put paperwork, I've got the paperwork that asks about that. And my concern is how it's going to impact the value of my property.
Okay. Okay.
I know that there is some concern that Mr. Valtero lives in Florida, and this should be expedited as quickly as possible, but it also impacts the people that live here 365 days a year and vote in this community.
Thank you. Okay, the final speaker would be, I can't read the first name, I believe the second name is Petroulis.
You got that second one right.
Okay.
First name is Lima.
Lila, okay.
Thank you.
Name and address for the record.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lima Petroulis. I reside at 15829 West 139th Street in Homer, Glen. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. I believe that this zoning matter, and with all due respect to everyone here, I think it not only affects us environmentally, but also can significantly, as Joe pointed out, depreciate the value of my property. Being a resident of Homer Glen, I'm very proud to say that we do protect the environment and we do have respect for each other's property. And currently, there is no driveway that extends to the rear of the property, right? The driveway ends, and then all of a sudden you have this beautiful field with trees, and thank you for your comments about environmental protection and the tree inventory, which I believe is very, very important. But if this variance is granted, my concern is that building permits then will be granted that will allow a driveway to be built there, and you will be literally destroying a significant amount of trees, right? You will be also affecting my property, and by building that driveway, the floodwaters will run off onto my property, which is really a wetland. Furthermore, I am trying to seek just environmental protection for my land because we do have a significant number of animals that run free there. There's also very rare grasses that grow there, and I believe by granting this variance, we will really be impeding the essence of Homer Glen, which is community and nature in harmony. So not only am I concerned about the depreciation to my property, but I think that by granting this variance, somehow we may be going against what our principles are with respect to community and nature in harmony. So I would like for you, and I would encourage for you all to go and walk their property and see how beautiful it is. And my concern is that, you know, by building on there, I think we're contradicting what our values are here as being part of Homer Glen. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes public comment. The next portion of this meeting is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes the following items of business? Consider for approval a business association agreement with Gallagher Benefit Services and a motion to direct the village manager to budget $1,500 for the village participation in the Illinois and Michigan Canal National Heritage Corridor for FY 2014-2015. It is further understood that the village manager is requested to ensure that the village joins the IMCN-HC at the beginning of FY 2014.
So moved.
First by trustee Costa,
Second.
second by trustee Yukich. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee K. Janice?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Trustee Sabo?
Thought I said yes. Okay.
Oh.
Trustee Sluis?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Motion carries. The next items are legislation and action items. This would be I-1. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 13-056, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of a special use to permit a final plan unit development for the property commonly known as 12100 West 159th Street, Homer Glen, Illinois, Richards Building Supply Company.
I so moved.
First by trustee K. Janice, second by trustee Sabo. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee K. Janice?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Sluis?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo.
Aye.
Motion carries. I-2, is there a motion to authorize the village board to accept and receive the 2012-2013, congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
Right. I'll start that back over. I-2, is there a motion to authorize the village board to accept and receive the 2012-2013 village audit? Ed McCormick, audit partner with MPS, will be reporting on the audit financial statements and answer any questions we have.
So moved.
First by trustee Costa,
Second.
second by trustee Yukich. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Sabo.
Aye.
Trustee Suisse.
Aye.
Trustee Yukich.
Aye.
Trustee Costa.
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo.
Aye.
Trustee Kijana.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank
Good
you.
evening, Mayor and Board. What I'd like to do is, have done in the past, go through your audit report, hit some of the highlights, and see if there's any questions I could answer. I'm not going to go through each and every page. It's about 75 pages. I know you've got a lot on your board or table, so we'll just, like I say, hit the highlights. Starting with the introduction section, there's a transmittal letter that it gives a kind of an overview of the village and more of the, what the the economic conditions, major initiatives, things that are going on that a reader of the statements would be interested in knowing kind of a flavor of what type of activities. But on that very first page, talks about the Financial Reporting Award, and this is will be the 12th submission and hopefully the 12th time that you receive the Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting. And that certificate for last year, which was the 11th year, is on page Roman numeral 7. Following the certificate, there's a list of the board members and then also an organization chart for the village. Then we get to our contribution to the package, which is the audit opinion, which is on page Roman numeral 10. And what we're saying here, and the format's a little bit different than what's been in the past, where I guess as auditor's trying to get this a little bit more understandable, but the idea is that we're saying that, what your responsibility is that you're responsible for the financial statements, and then our responsibility as auditors is to perform the procedures, look at documentation, test transactions in order to be able to form an opinion on your records. And I'm pleased to say that last line on the first page says that we believe that the audit evidence was sufficient to provide a basis for our opinion. So that opinion is, and then on the following page is that, we feel that these statements do fairly present in all material respects the financial position and result of operations as of and for the year ended April 30th of 13. A clean opinion, which, I'm very pleased to be able to provide, and you as a board should be pleased to hear that we feel that, your systems are such that, they support the numbers as of the end of the year and the results for the year. Based upon our audits, we feel these numbers are appropriate, and therefore we feel that these are statements that can be relied upon. There are some other items that are included in the document, and that's what we're talking about under the other matters section. Basically, what we're saying here is that anything that we could provide an opinion on, we have extended our audit procedures, and we feel that everything is appropriate in conjunction with the basic financial statements. And there's some comparative information derived from last year's audit report, which also had a clean opinion. So all in all, a clean bill of health. I think things are really in pretty good shape. Moving then on to the management discussion and analysis letter, which is really the story behind the numbers. This is kind of an explanation of, the numbers are what the numbers are. They're going to, but try to get a flavor of why things ended up or how you ended up where you did. Some of the financial highlights: assets exceeded liabilities. In the business world, that would be your equity, retained earnings. So you had a positive balance, and you can see, a number of the dollars are either restricted or reserved for specific purposes. So you're setting aside dollars to be used for various projects. You can see that from the fund financial perspective, that you had positive fund balances at the end of the year, a little over $34 million. A good chunk of that are the bond proceeds in the capital project fund to be used for the the street and sewer projects coming up. But again, you still had other balances that were very very positive. And for the year, you ended up with a overall, from the entity perspective combined, a little over $3.6 million increase in your net position. So I think all in all, a real solid year. The balance of the letter goes on to talk about the funds. There's a comparison of activity on page Roman numeral 15, showing, the growth in the assets, and again, it's, mainly the combination of the surplus for the year plus the proceeds from the bond issue on hand. And then on page Roman numeral 17 is a comparison this year to last year, and in almost every category, you can see where the revenues all increased: the sales tax, the income tax, use tax, your license and permits, the contributions and grants were probably the biggest area of increase, and then down below, the expenses, had actually a slight increase over last year, and that does also include depreciation, which we'll look at when we get to the footnotes. There's some, again, additional explanation regarding where the sources of revenue and where the expenditures were spent, and very consistent with the past. Sales tax continues to be the largest area. As you continue to notice that there is no property tax included in those numbers. And then on the expenditure side, public safety is by far the lion's share of the dollars spent. On page Roman numeral 20 is just a quick summary regarding the budgetary highlights. And again, good news on both fronts. Revenues came in higher than anticipated, and expenditures were lower than what was budgeted. And almost in every category, when we look at the budgetary statements, you'll see that you had a positive surplus on each line item. Little discussion regarding capital assets. There wasn't a lot of activity in that area this year. And then the debt is on the page 22. And again, this year being the first year that you have bonded debt outstanding is the main reason for the increase there. So if, and I went through that hopefully quickly enough, was a summary of, if you just read that, I think it gives you a real good flavor of what has happened last year, and then more importantly, where you're headed this year. The actual financial statements begin on the numbered pages, and the first couple pages are as I mentioned, the entity-wide, where all the funds are combined together, including the depreciation. You've got the capital assets and the debt, and that's where we get this net position, which is a new term this year, used to be net assets, of a little bit more than almost $41 million, and the increase is shown on page 2 with a comparison to last year. But the fund financial statements begin on pages 3 and 4, and this is more of the way you budget, the way you report to the Comptroller's Office on the annual financial report. So breaking down, you got the major funds all listed across with the general motor fuel tax, the park, and then the capital projects fund, and again, the capital projects fund has the large increase, which we flip over to pages 6 and 7, shows that the bond proceeds, the $15,640,000, is all deposited in there, and still, based on John's report earlier, is still all on hand. But again, across the board, other than the motor fuel tax fund, and that's because of the transfers out to cover some of the capital projects, you had a positive surplus or a net change in fund balance, in all funds, and combined, it was quite an increase over the prior years, even excluding the bond issue. So again, more real good news going forward. The budgetary statements begin on pages 9, carry over to page 10, and again, as you can see, all the variances are very positive. There's a little bit of, again, comparison for the motor fuel tax fund on pages 12 and 13, and then the park fund on 14 and 15. Again, unless there's a specific question on one of the funds, we'll just move on then to the next section, which is the notes to the financial statement. And these are very similar to what's been presented in the past, so just a couple highlights. On page 22, deposits and investment, everything was secured. You had proper collateral. All your investments were AAA rated and fairly short in maturity, because currently the interest rates are, they keep saying they can't go any lower, yet they continue to do that. But at some point, they are projected to go up, and you're in a position to be able to take advantage of that. The capital asset activity is on page 24. And as I mentioned, there was depreciation this past year of a little over $105,000 for the governmental fund. Then public safety was $1 million, a little over $1 million, and then streets, it was $16,000. So including those front statements was a total of about $1.2 million in depreciation. Something new again this year, because of the issuance of the debt, is we do have the long-term debt maturities on page 25, and then there's a summary of the activity at the bottom of page 26 from the additions and the repayments this year and what's due within the next year. Fund balances on top of page 27. I guess one thing I'd like to point out is that you've got quite a bit of fund balance on hand. amount of it is, or a good amount of it, I should say, is restricted for use, but then there's also items that you as a board have identified to be used for specific purposes, park development, capital projects, which allows you to be able to take action to do things during the coming years out of the cash balances and not have to go into any further debt in order to do that. The balance of the notes talks about your involvement with the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, again, all on page 28, showing that all required payments were made, and then just a few other notes about your insurance and the new accounting standard that will be applicable for the coming year. But all in all, I think that was a again, a strong report, summary of, or notes following the statements that, continue to show, that you're in a real strong position. There's some additional fund statements following that. I'm not going to go through those. And then the final section of the report is the statistical section, which begins on page 35. And there's a lot of 10-year trend information. And that's what sets this document apart from most other financial statements, is making it a comprehensive annual financial report. Gives a good history of the trends of where you've gone, excuse me, and some of the principal employers, major taxpayers, some statistical information regarding employees and other items, just to give again a better flavor of what has transpired this past year, or over the history of the village at this point, or at least the last 10 years. So I think in summary, again, a real good report. I'm real pleased to be able to bring this news to the board. I'll stop at this point and see, are there any questions regarding the audit?
I really don't have any questions. I'm very pleased that the village has been able to stay as fiscally healthy as we have, and I think it's only going to get better. You look at companies like Richard's Supply coming in and putting their corporate headquarters here in the village, the largest Myers in the southwest suburbs coming in, Jewel selecting us one of 4 of 72 stores to come here, and I think it's just going to get better. So thank you for your report. Does anybody have a question? Okay, thank you.
Again, thank you, and I'd like to thank John and his staff, because the audit wouldn't be as smooth of an operation without their help. So, again, I appreciate the opportunity to make the presentation, and if there's anything we can do to help during the year, please let us know.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, this would be I3. Is there a motion to approve the attached position descriptions for the village manager and development service director?
So moved.
First by trustee DeVivo,
I second.
second by trustee Swees. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I have
Trustee
a
Swees, go
couple
ahead.
Comments. Just on the one for Development Services Director, I was just wondering if there was not a conflict, but some type of confusion, because we have an economic development person and then development services. Do you think maybe we should include engineering somehow in that? I don't know, it's just comments that I was...
We haven't had any difficulty so far. I mean, you can always do something like that, but then again, we haven't had any difficulties.
Okay. All right, and then on the other village manager, just a couple of comments. The first, under essential duties, responsibilities, communicates with the mayor. I was thinking maybe it would be nice to add some type of chart that informs the board, or a spreadsheet that informs the board on a regular basis of initial contacts that were received by the village, like from businesses or developers, so that we know initially what is going on and the progression of those contacts. Also, on page 2, under knowledge and skills, maybe just some kind of wording on the sixth point, where it says ability to make effective and persuasive speeches. I think the word persuasive, I think it just should say effective speeches. I think it should be just based on facts and not persuasion, maybe. And then on number 8, ability to assemble, organize, I would say and present financial and factual data on, again, like an unbiased manner, where we were just talking about facts, not interpretation and not persuasive.
I have no difficulty with your suggestions. Does anybody have any difficulty with those recommendations? No. Nope. Okay, so we'll let the record reflect.
I'm not sure what the first one was. The position description talks about communicating with the mayor and the board, which I do in my weekly memo. It doesn't really go to the specifics of specific communication tools. So I'm not sure if the first one would be common in our position descriptions, to be that specific. Like I am supposed to tell you every conversation I have with anyone who walks in the door
No.
about potentially opening up a business. I mean, I typically do that in my weekly reports. I give the board a summary, and I would obviously continue to do that. I've been doing that now for 2 years, so I keep doing that.
I tend to agree with you on that, Kim. If you read it, it says communications with the mayor and village board of trustees regarding policy matters, municipal services, programs, plans, fiscal matters, and citizens' concerns verbally and/or in writing.
Right. And
which
Mayor, I
he
think one of the
currently does.
things that may be helpful, kind of address Trustee Sweet's question, I think, is in Janie's economic development report that she does. We talked recently about trying to put together a list on that report that talks about the status of different projects. I'll give you one example real quick. I think the board knows that McDonald's has expressed an interest to rebuild, to renovate and rebuild. Well, they expressed that interest last year, but then they got going on another store that they own in another community, and so this one stepped back just gently, and now it's coming to the fore again. So I think what Janie's going to do is create kind of a little bit of a spreadsheet that tracks some of these so that the board always knows kind of the exact status of the development projects. And I think that'll probably, Trustee Sweets, I think if that's what you're kind of looking for, I think that'll probably serve those
Okay,
needs.
yeah, we'll-
Yeah, and if it doesn't, after she starts it, then just let us know.
Okay, is everybody satisfied with that? Okay, then we'll make those changes to the essential duties and responsibilities. There was discussion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo? Aye. Trustee Pujanis?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Motion carries. This would be I-4. Is there a motion to approve the ordinance number 13-058, an ordinance adopting the official flag for the Village of Homer Glen, Will County, Illinois?
So moved.
First by Trustee DeVivo,
Second.
second by Trustee K. Janis. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee K. Janis?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Motion carries. This would be I-5. Is there a motion to approve the ordinance number 13-057, an ordinance granting a variance from the minimum lot width and lot frontage requirements of the E2 Single Family Rural Residential Zoning District of the subject property located south of 15807 West 159th Street, Homer Glen, Illinois. That would be Volterra.
So moved.
First by Trustee DeVivo,
Second.
second by Trustee K. Janis. Is there any discussion?
I'd like
Go ahead,
some
Trustee
discussion.
Sabo.
My question, before I heard the comments under public comment, was that I really wanted a thorough description of the property that is cut out as the flag lot. And I think that's very important to know. And so if I missed it in the staff report, I do apologize. Was there any description on that flag lot as far as environmental features were concerned, wetlands and so forth?
No, there was no description of the environmental features on the property.
Just the plan, obviously the aerial showing the property.
Well, and I think that's important when we're looking at a case like this. I really, from the comments that the neighbors have made, they're very, very concerned. I'd really like us to really take a look at this property and not vote on this this evening, to get some verification of whether it's possible to have a dwelling on that flag lot. I heard something about a cavitette. I heard something about not a regular septic system. What would the health department allow on if it's that wet? And something about discharging into a wetland. So, and also, I want to question one of the gentlemen, I believe it was Joe Novak, said that he had received no notification that this was going to happen. Were we supposed to send out?
That was in 2006. This was not for, that was in 2006. That was not for this meeting. Everyone was properly notified this
But how about
cycle.
now? Were we supposed to send something out now?
Everyone was notified for the Plan Commission meeting.
Everyone was properly notified?
The law, just so we're clear on that, and this is every single case, the law does not require us to notify about village board consideration, right? So that never happens, has never happened here at the village. But at the Plan Commission, they are notified of the public hearing
And
at
they
the Plan
do,
Commission.
yes.
And then the Plan Commission chair, who I've witnessed do this many, many times, is very good at letting everyone in the audience who is still in the audience know that this will go on to the village board, of course, for consideration. He always says that, so.
Well, I just heard that comment that I didn't, is he talking about he wasn't notified this time or last time?
I think over the course of my career, I've heard a number of residents, both here and other communities I worked in, wonder why they're not notified of the village board's consideration. That's not a legal requirement, and I don't know too many communities, if any, that do that. So I think that's maybe what his comment was.
But in this case, he was notified, correct?
They're notified of the
Okay,
Plan
that's-
Commission public hearing.
We don't
Right.
need a whole, that's the answer, that they were notified.
Well, if this property is that sensitive, I think that we should take another look at it. That's my feeling.
Okay, looking at the background of this, and it's highlighted, so it's easy just to, go through this. Background information. On April 26, 2006, the village board approved the subdivision of a 5-acre parcel into a key lot and a flag lot. As part of the village board's 2006 approval, both the flag lot and the key lot were also rezoned from A1 agricultural to E2 single-family residential. The lot variance, skipping down further, for the subject property was originally granted on April 26 of 2006. Per the village ordinance, if the petitioner does not obtain a building permit or commence the use within 1 year of the date of the variance issue, April 26 of 2007, the variance is no longer valid. Skipping further down. Therefore, the variance for lot width has expired and is considered void. Skipping down further, it talks about approximately 7 members of the public spoke at the hearing. The majority of the speakers, 6 of the 7, spoke against the variance. Then you skip down a little bit further. I'm just hitting the cliff notes here for everybody. The Plan Commission felt that since the lot had previously been created and the variance had previously been issued, it was appropriate to reissue the variance. So that's where we're at. I mean, circumstances changed as a result of the environment in that area? I really can't tell you. I'm just looking at the facts of the case. Aaron, you've looked at it through aerials and whatever.
Well, Mayor, just to say, maybe this will address Trustee Sable's concerns. Any construction on the site, just like any construction on any site of any parcel in the village, is going to have to meet, the village's ordinances, the village's stormwater ordinance. So, there's, as far as I am aware, there's no proposal right now that's under consideration for that lot. But if one comes through, then it will have to meet the stormwater ordinance like any development would, like Richards did tonight that you approved and various other developments. So that would be reviewed. It's impossible to review it in advance. It would have to be reviewed when the project actually came forward, and of course that would happen. So
do you have any further questions, Trustee Salem?
Well, my concern is that, the residents are very strong against this. That's why I think we should take a look at really what this says, because none of this says anything about the property itself in the description. It gives you the history of how this transpired. And I know that ordinances are important, health department is important, and so forth, but wouldn't it be a shame if somebody bought this lot and then couldn't build on it? That's my concern. That's why I think we should just take a thorough look here.
Well, I think just for the sake of discussion, I think if somebody was going to buy a lot, it would be contingent upon building on the lot. And we can say all day long, looking at this lot, whatever. But until you actually have an application from somebody as to what they want to do on that lot, as far as what size house, where the house would be positioned, whether it fits the ordinances or not, I mean, it's sort of hard to do a assessment of it. I don't know. I don't even know how you do that. Trustee DeVivo?
I want to ask a question. For one thing, I'm very familiar with this area and the driveways. It's a very strange way that they've broken up the lots to begin with, because there's a lot of shared driveways. If I'm seeing this correctly, is the lot next door to this, is this right here? Is this one broken up pretty much the same way?
The lot to the west, yes, it's also a flag lot.
It's a flag lot also. If you really look at this, the lot sizes are all over the place. I mean, they're probably 5 acres. This one's 2.5. They want to break up. I really don't think they'd have a problem building on 2.5 acre parcel. But they're acre lots all over. It's very, very different here. They're not set up like a subdivision where everything has to be either a half acre or an acre or whatever. You can see how varied this is. And it's not uncommon for us to approve a variance for flag lots. We've done it on the south end of the village, certainly. So, and we did this once before. I really don't have any problem with this, because I think that we approved this once before. It's my opinion that we should continue on with it.
When I look at this, we definitely discourage flag lots. Unfortunately, we have inherited a lot of things from the past that, as we became a village. I look at this as far as the adjacent property directly next door, which appears to me, if I'm not incorrect, is a flag lot also. I don't know how you guys see all this? The one to the right there? That's a flag lot also.
Correct.
This person, he had a year to do it, so granted, his variance he has to reapply for, but I don't understand, how the person to the right of him can have it and he can't have it. And we do have flag lots in the community, and you can't really do an assessment of what's going to go back there until somebody actually decides to come forward with a plan, and you either say it fits on that flag lot or it doesn't fit on that flag lot. But the only way to access that property, the way I see it, if I'm not incorrect, is from 139th Street. There is no other access to the property. So as we do discourage flag lots, how do you get to that property? How does that property owner get to use that property?
Well, flag lots have an advantage too. I mean, it utilizes land that you otherwise wouldn't be able to get to. But the driveway is not the issue for me. It's just, I believe that we should take a good look at this property to see what the neighbors are concerned about.
Well, we pretty much heard it in public comment. They're concerned about a driveway going back to that property. And the fact is, how do you get to the property if you don't have a driveway? I mean, I understand both sides of it, it's the catch-22 here, I mean, here's a man that owns a piece of property that would like to be able to get to it, to be able to, market it and do something with it. You give me another way of getting to the property, and maybe that's an answer to the puzzle, but, right next door, it's a flag lot.
Well, as I said, I don't
And I
mind
see-
that it is
and
a flag lot.
And if I'm correct, I see a house back in the flag lot too. So, I understand nobody wants a driveway, but I don't know how this gentleman here accesses this property.
Well, the flag
Go-
lot
go
for
ahead,
me
Trustee Yukich.
is not the issue. It was the land itself that they are talking about, that it is so wet.
Well,
That's my
the
concern.
thing about it is that in order for him to be able to develop that property, he's gonna have to have, probably soil borings, he's probably gonna have to have tests done for, whether it's wetlands, it isn't wetlands. I mean, he's gonna have to comply with everything in order to get a building permit, but I still don't see how you get to the property without the flag lot. Go ahead, George.
Well, my only question is, you had a variance for it, and you had a permit for up to a year, and it wasn't done. And now some of the residents that are coming before us said that they were never notified of the original variance, and now they have been, and now you've got 6 out of 7 that came to it, and I'm taking it for granted, they're neighbors, and there's not a lot of houses on that property. So now they've got an opportunity to voice their opinion, and they're voicing their opinion. I kind of agree with the mayor on the respect that, you've got a piece of dirt that you want to sell or put something up. And the only way you can do it is if you got a road going to it. But I think that, I don't know, I just wish you would have done it the first time, then it wouldn't be an issue.
I guess I've got to ask the question is, the individual bought a parcel that is a rectangular shaped parcel, sold off the frontage, and now he's looking for access to maybe that was his original home, I don't know. Was it? Okay, and now he's trying to do something with the back. It looks pretty darn close to the same size property that his house was originally on. Mike, is there any way of getting back to this property?
Not that I'm aware of, except for 139.
Okay. Well, that's the question is, the property is landlocked without the flag lot, so.
And he let that happen, though. That's my only issue. He had the variance, and he had a year to do it, or he could have come in for an extension. He didn't, and now you have all the neighbors that are around it with an issue. So I'm not saying that I would vote no, but I'm also not saying I would vote yes. Well, here.
That's a true politician there.
All right, but this is, my only concern is, if he does put it up for sale, and someone does buy it, and let's just say they don't, someone goes in a cash situation, then they can't build back there. I would feel terrible that I got the approval through where someone got stuck. At the same token, if they did do it on a contingency, then it's a non-issue, because you can't put it you wouldn't be able to put the road back there to get to
Well,
it.
here's sort of a logical question, I guess, it reads, let's see here. The lot width variance for the subject property was originally granted on April 26, 2006. Per the village ordinance, if the petitioner does not obtain a building permit or commence with the use within 1 year of the date of the variance issue, the variance is no longer valid. Well, we all know what happened in 2006 and 7 and 8. I mean, the end of the dance was coming as far as building. My question is, what were these houses here, the ones next to the flag or the
Yes.
driveway
Those are older homes.
that got to his original home? You follow what I'm saying, George?
Yeah.
So, these houses were here when this original road was here. All he's trying to do is now come back and make an application to say, if I want to sell this property for the purposes of having a house back there, I need to reapply for the variance. But he had 1 year to do it, which I agree with you that he didn't do. But this driveway was here when these older houses were here.
Well, it's driveway up to the house. It does not appear that the driveway goes back that far. It looks like it stops when it comes up to the house. So you're extending it another,
Right, which would impact only that one house that is to the right of it, and was that house that...
It's a shared driveway, but it only goes up to the current house.
It only goes
It will
up
be a shared driveway, but only comes up to the current house.
to the house on the right, or the house...
The house that exists in the front.
right.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be a shared driveway from that point because he's on his land and the driveway to the west
He comes in
comes
off
in
of
on
his
on
flag,
the opposite side, on the side that we're trying to put the road in on that one.
of his flag, or of his driveway on his flag lot. So you have two flag lots right next to each other.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's not
it's-
I'm
it's
sorry,
a
guys,
challenge.
it's not an easy one to, deal with here. I know nobody wants any more traffic going past their house, but you're talking about probably one neighbor back there so that he can have access to that property or market it. And the same exact thing is directly next door. I mean, to me, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
That sort of comes down to how you feel about,
Well, I figure out what you said kind of makes sense. Hopefully, the person that buys a piece of dirt understands that they could have a problem.
You know,
Go ahead,
I'm
Trustee
going to
DeVivo.
just make a comment. I understand what you're saying about buying a piece of property, and I am very familiar. Someone did do that, in fact, on 135th. They bought the piece of property and could not, they would have had to build a bridge over Long Run Creek. They weren't allowed to do it because there wasn't enough room. And they got stuck with the property. But, it's kind of a buyer beware. You really need to know what you're doing. And I don't think that based on where the wetlands are in the back, that would really impact this a great deal. I mean, there's plenty of room. It's 2.5 acres to put a house on, decent-sized home and a habitat system. If you look at some of the other properties, a whole lot smaller, and they pretty much cover the whole lot, so.
I see both sides of the argument, but
do.
2.5 acres in Homer Glen, it's landlocked, that you can't, if I owned the 2.5 acres and I couldn't get to it, besides going down a flag lot driveway, I'd be pretty disappointed with the village that says I can't get my money out of that lot. I'm not about, saying that it's an ideal situation, but at the same time, it appears that there were houses here. It was a technicality that he didn't come in and update his variance. He's hence moved on to Florida. And we have a landlocked piece of property that we can't get another access to. So I think we've discussed it enough. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Kajanis?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
I voted no when it came around before. I'm voting no now.
Trustee Suisse?
No.
Trustee Yukich?
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay. That was not easy.
Get this one put in this time.
Yes.
Okay, we are on to I-6. Is there a motion to authorize the mayor to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with Homer Township to co-sponsor the 2014 Homer Community Festival on June 26th through June 29, 2014?
So moved.
First by trustee Yukich,
Second.
second by trustee Costa. Is there any discussion? I know, Mike, you wanted to say something about...
Yeah, just bring up to the board, we had the fest in June, and here we are, October, and we're getting our final numbers. It took a little while to get all of the costs in. Also, we're looking at next year's costs, anticipating some things, so you'll see that in the budget, actually, that's presented tonight. But you can see that this year's fest, we brought in $88,919.50 with a cost of $69,707.80. So there was a proceeds of $19,211.77. And, we remembered we had Sunday, which actually had some bad weather, so we closed it down early, and also, we had a little issue, I believe it was on Thursday or Friday with rain, and then the Hawks decided to go to the playoffs, and that hurt one of the nights also. But all in all, it was a great success. I think everybody had, it went over well, a lot of community involvement. So what we did, again, if you look at the IGA, just pretty much changed the dates on it to reflect this year's fest. I think the verbiage and everything worked well, for the village and the township. And then we went into looking at our budget for next year. You'll see it's very similar to this year. But what we did is we actually broke down some of the items that we've seen now historically for the last three years that are costs, actual cost to the event, rather than putting something just in a miscellaneous fund or line item. We broke it down, such as for signage, for mosquito control, things like that. So just give you a little bit better idea of, instead of putting a miscellaneous column, you see where a lot of that went to. So, and again, our budget is going to be very similar to what it was last year. And we're also trying, always looking to try to keep it down the best we can. But, just hopefully if you have any questions, I'd like to answer them for you.
Okay.
One question, if I may.
Go ahead.
Last year, there was discussion regarding insurance, regarding weather. Is that possibly on the committee's radar screen to look into that again, or?
We did get, it's strange because I actually looked into that last year with a couple other members, and we had one company that really came to us or came forth with a budget, with a figure. I know it was just handed me last month. I believe one more company has actually contacted somebody in the township to offer insurance, and we're going to look into that, see what the costs are. We had that discussion last year's board member, we're kind of betting on it raining, It's like almost a no-win situation. And I think our biggest challenge last year was to determine, do we take the weather here, or do we take the weather at Midway? It did rain there a half an inch, but it didn't rain here a half an inch, or vice versa this year, so one of the days we wouldn't have gotten paid. So, but yeah, we're going to look into again and look at some costs, because it's definitely something that we should probably just at least revisit again.
Well, you guys
Okay.
did a nice job last year, so.
Thank you.
Okay.
I-
Is there any further, Trustee DeVivo?
Do you think that you should increase the budget? I mean, we always seem to have a problem with when there just doesn't, like, there's not enough, and we can't make a change. Would we be better off adding a little more to it? And if we don't use it, we don't use it, but at least we've got it.
I would love to increase the budget, but
About 30?
unfortunately, it's, once you add more dollars to it and you say, well, if we don't use it, we won't use it, but it seems
we
like you
will?
always do. I really think we put a good quality event on for the community in the last 3 years, and with sponsorships that come in, and of course, we're still negotiating with some of the big entertainment, such as the carnival, and things may come in, but until we get contracts, we really don't like to say anything. So, I mean, I think the committee was pretty comfortable with the budget we had in the last 3 years, and I don't think we really cut back or scrimp on anything. I think it was a good quality event for the whole community.
It was a good carnival.
Everybody worked very hard, so.
Community Fest, and, when you talk about increasing budgets and what have you, that property is only so large. There's only so much you can do on that property, and I think you pretty much maxed out what you can do on that property.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd only be increasing the degree of talent, I believe, and I think everybody was satisfied with, what went on, so.
Yeah, and I think if I could, Mayor, Trustee DeVivo is very much involved in helping with this event, and of course, she comes to the meetings, and at the event, she's there all the time helping, but, we are looking into, if you want to say bigger entertainment, and I think that's what she was talking about, some of the bands that we get come with a large price tag, and of course, the bigger bands that you get for the entertainment, the more people will come and support the event, so our budget is a little bit, restrictive in that event, in that case where, we may not be able to afford the $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 bands, but like you said, Mayor, we've had some great entertainment, and, let's keep it going.
Okay. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Pajanis?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Motion carries. That concludes legislation and action items. The next item is J. It's a workshop item. It's IDOT's 159th Street Improvement Project, discussion of median landscaping and street and intersection lighting. Manager Davis will lead us in this discussion. Go ahead, Captain.
Thank you, Mayor. I have the first part of this, which is a landscaping item, and probably one of our last discussions about median landscaping, and then Michael is going to handle the lighting afterwards. The reason why we're discussing this tonight is because IDOT has now begun their what's called pre-final engineering. There's obviously a lot of stages to these big projects. And so now we're at that stage after discussing landscaping in particular several times. We've actually, this will be the third time we've actually talked about landscaping in a workshop environment since I've been here. Now at the next meeting, we really need to approve the motions and the letter that go to IDOT, similar to what you did for Opticom, what you did for the bike trail, if you remember, and the sidewalk. Those letters and motions that we passed on to IDOT. So now it's time to really focus in on the landscaping and focus in on the lighting so we can get that done at the next meeting. Mayor, before I start, real quick, on the way out, the representatives from Richards Building Supply said to please say thank you to the board for their approval, and they also wanted me to mention that they're actually doing a groundbreaking this week because they're not messing around. I think they're coming in. Joe skipped out, but are they coming in tomorrow for building permits? Did I hear him say? Okay, so they're not messing around. They want to get in the ground and get this building up. So on Friday, I think, Janie, at 3 o'clock? At Friday at 3 o'clock, they're doing a groundbreaking, and they wanted to make sure that everyone knew that they were invited. So that's, and then afterwards, I think they're going to stop. They're going to have a little social event at Bonfire or something, which is good for Bonfire, good for them. So I wanted to mention that. All right, so getting on to the workshop, median landscaping. So you actually, get my little thing here. All right, so staff has facilitated, as I said, a couple village board workshop sessions on this topic. The last time we talked about it was back in February. It doesn't seem that long ago, but it was. And so now an approval letter is required to IDOT from the village saying what your expectations are. And I'll work you through that here as we go forward. So after the last time we spoke, and in subsequent conversations with various trustees that had feedback about it, these were some of the things that I have on my master list that I keep. You know, keep it simple and easy as possible to maintain, include grass wherever possible, include trees. Those are kind of no-brainers, those two. Install planted punches of color at a few key intersections and access point locations. And actually, that one has been echoed by a number of trustees going all the way back to Trustee Nemec, too. That was one of her big requests, that there be punches of color at intersection locations. And then install intermittent curb-to-curb planting beds that include low-growing bushes and prairie grasses surrounded by mulch, things of that nature. These are all feedback that I've kind of turned into goals for our recommendation. And then key points of information, just so you know, IDOT selects, purchases, pays for, and plants all of the trees. Okay, so the village cannot select specific tree species, but IDOT has asked for the village to give them recommendations of 10 tree species that we would like to see in the median. And if they can accommodate it, they said they would. I had a conversation with Trustee Sabo about the Environment Committee coming up with a list of 10 or maybe even more trees with the help of our arborist and the consultant that we're working with on the Emerald Ash Borer project. And I believe that they'll be addressing that at their next meeting, coming up with a list that we can send forward to IDOT. Then IDOT will also, with the landscaping side of things, aside from trees, IDOT will purchase and plant the shrubs, grasses, perennials. Depending on the extent of the planting, the village may have to contribute to this cost. So here's the thing. IDOT says to you, listen, we'll pick up the tab for reasonable plantings, okay? And we'll know if they're reasonable or not at the end of the final engineering. We'll let you know. Okay, now, they give you examples, and you can see it as you drive around the community. They'll say, Community X, we don't consider that reasonable. Community Y, we consider that reasonable. Well, the examples that they gave us on the Community Y side that they consider reasonable are the recommendations I'm making tonight. So my hope is that on the landscape front, there'll be no additional cost. okay? Because I did not use the models that were explained to me from the communities that kind of had more landscaping. All right. Additional key points of information, there's no cost for the grass. IDOT will install the mulch wherever the village so chooses for it to go. The village will be required, as the board knows, we've talked about this before, to maintain the median grass, the mulch, the trees, the bushes, and flowers within our corporate boundaries. And IDOT will guarantee 1-year replacement of the trees that are planted. So those are just some key points. So these are staff recommendations regarding landscaping. The first one is an easy recommendation to make because IDOT has already made this decision. Okay, but we still have to acknowledge it, and I want everybody to understand it. So portions of the medians that are not wide enough to maintain vegetation, because we do have some medians when they come to certain areas that are actually 3 feet wide. Okay, and they can't support, and IDOT will not let them be in grass because of maintenance issues. How can someone mow a strip of grass that's 2 feet wide? They're standing in the road. So usually at intersections and access points where turn lanes exist, that's where this cement. And I'm going to show you here an example from Wheaton. This right here from the back of curb to back of curb is not even 3 feet, but it's pretty close. All right. This is what I'm talking about. In areas like this, this is what IDOT will put into cement. We cannot plant grass or bushes or anything of that nature in these kinds of medians. Now, where do these exist? Well, here you go. I'm glad you asked. These are the areas. They're just to the west of Will Cook. It doesn't go far. I think it goes maybe right to the driveway of Sandbox. Okay, there'll be a smaller because of the turn lanes. Then either side of South Bell by Bonfire on both the east and west side. I think the east side is a little bit shorter than the west, but there's some areas there because of the turn lanes. On the west side of South Bell at the former Kmart, we have the same thing. On the east side, we don't. Then west of Oak Valley Trail, and then either side of Anaco Drive, okay, we have the same thing. Either side of Parker Road, and then east of Cedar Road. These are areas where, because of the turn lanes that have been installed, or the access points, there will be these strips of cement, and they vary in length. Some of them are very short, and other ones are a little bit longer. As far as I can tell, none of them are as long as this one in Wheaton. We were trying to measure them out. This is a rather large one down by the on the south side of Wheaton. So recommendation number 2, install planted punches of color at a few key intersections and access point locations. So punches of color are typically extend 20 to 30 feet. That's what IDOT is recommending, and when you're out there in Romeoville and various other places and looking, I saw variations between 20 and 30 feet. Examples, as I mentioned, Romeoville, Illinois Route 53, just north of 131st Street, and from Woodridge. These are 2 examples. Well, let's see here. All right, so going back to this picture. So pretend like this is the start of an intersection, right by Will Cook. Right at the end, all the way up at the top, is where that cement would end. And then even though this doesn't look very attractive right now, this picture was taken today, it was snowing. That is a very attractive punch of purple. And it extends back 28 feet. It's in Romeoville, and it was beautiful this spring and summer. And that's what they're talking about, these punches of color that come at main intersections that go back 20 or 30 feet. Typically the same type of planting so that you get a real strong punch of purple or red or yellow, whatever we so choose. This is in Woodridge, actually an International Center. This is an example of one of these areas that does not have the cement coming back. This is actually, we have a couple of these too. This is a little bit from a distance. Now, again, right now, this picture wasn't taken too long ago. It doesn't look that great. But in the summer, this was really vibrant yellow, and they had some bushes in the middle that they've since taken out. It was really a nice punch of color at intersections, and that's what we're talking about. Here are the 9 recommended kind of punches of planted color that we're talking about. We're talking about west of Will Cook Road as you enter. Okay, so you have the little cement strip that's too thin to landscape, and then boom, a punch of color, basically right in front of Sandbox. Okay, right as you're coming into town. Then east and west side of South Bell by Bonfire. Okay, you have punches of color on both sides. Then on the east side of South Bell at the former Kmart site. Okay, you have a little punch of color too, maybe shorter, maybe not 30 feet long, 20, because obviously they'd kind of run into each other. You have to be cognizant of how much space you have. Then east and west side of Parker Road, major intersection. East and west side of Messenger Circle. And then east of Cedar Road as you're coming into Homer Glen from the west. These are the 9 punches of color where we like really concentrated color as you're entering the community from both ends, and then some strategic locations in the middle, so to speak. Recommendation number 3 is a very simple tree planting placement. IDOT is really strongly recommending that we put trees down the middle of the median, as far away from the edges of the median as possible, because they see stronger survival rates on trees that are planted right down the middle than on the trees that they've planted in medians over the years farther apart. So they plant them like next to each other and offset them, and they get them closer to the road. They're suggesting that we utilize the width of the medians and plant them in the middle to keep them away from salt. So staff is taking that recommendation to heart and suggesting that the trees be planted 30 to 40 feet apart. Different trees have different needs. We're thinking about the future, 20, 30, 40 years down the road. With punches of small growing bushes and prairie grass plantings in mulched areas. And I'm going to show you some pictures. I got some examples here again from Romeoville, Woodridge, and Orland Park. So this is an example from Romeoville. You see the punch of color down here at the very bottom, and then you see a stretch of grass. And then in the very, very far distant, you see what's this. Now, this spring they had some bushes in here that they took out. I'm really familiar with this stretch. But you see mulch, you see trees, then you see planting areas. This is in Woodridge. They actually have some plantings way, way in the far distance, but this is an example of trees that are actually 20 years old. So the trees do get bigger and get full growth. This is on 75th Street. This is also in Romeoville and 53. So what they've done to try to break up the monotony of it is the trees that are planted in grass have circles around them. But then as you get closer, then these trees are in mulch and squares. So it breaks up the monotony so it doesn't just look like the same thing as you go down. And we would seek to recommend doing this too. This is some examples of some plantings that could be done around trees that are more natural looking with grasses. You see there to the right, and we're recommending doing some grasses, which you don't see a lot in this area. Orland has a little bit of it, but not too many communities use grasses, but we were recommending that we do that. And then just for perspective, I think it's important to look at everybody, look at what our neighbors are doing. This last picture is actually a picture of one of the medians in Orland. In Lockport, I've talked to the new manager there, and they have no plans to change what they currently have. This is what you're seeing in Lockport. It's just all grass. There's no trees. There's no flowers or landscaping. Said maybe sometime in the future they might do it, but right now there's no plans. So this is what our medians would look like if all we did was grass. Which it's a very clean look. Looks very nice, but it can be maybe a little boring. That's my editorial comment. All right. So again, the recommendation summary is that the letter that we send to IDOT says that, obviously the portions of the medians that aren't wide enough to sustain growth go into cement, that that they install for us 9 punches of planted color at these key intersections that we've given them examples of. We do get to select from a list of potential punches of color for their first plantings, and they haven't given that to us yet, but we get to select from some examples. 3, plant single row trees 30 to 40 feet apart with punches of small growing bushes and prairie grasses in amongst those trees that mimic the pictures from Romeoville and Woodridge that you saw. And then we have to agree, of course, to maintain the grass, trees, bushes, flowers, and mulch on an ongoing basis. There are some communities, Orland has done this, that put their entire median into flowers bushes, mulch. There's no grass. It's all things that have to be maintained. The reality of here is that Michael and I don't feel like we could keep up with that maintenance, that it would be very cost prohibitive, that we have to have some grass that's easily mowable and cheaper to maintain. The other side of that is that I think if everything is the same, if we have 3.5 miles of never-ending planted bushes, stuff like that, it will be a lot. It might be too much. So our goal is to have it varied to keep people's interest. And then, of course, there will also be landscaping on the new developments like Richards. Richards has a very nice landscaping plan that will be just on the other side of our multi-use path. So there'll also be some landscaping on the sides that currently exists and stuff to come. So that is what our recommendation is. We'd like to put that in the form of a letter, and with the Environment Committee's help, coming up with a list of some trees that we can forward to them. Get that on your next agenda so we can get it off to IDOT and get moving on it. Mayor, that's my presentation.
Thank you. My only comment I liked everything I saw except one thing. I'm not a big fan of the prairie grasses. The prairie grasses, first of all, are high maintenance. Many of them have to be burned, on an annual basis. I can see prairie grasses also being a catcher's mitt for any type of debris that blows across. So it's not only a maintenance issue of trying to keep it growing, what have you, but it's also another maintenance issue of having to have somebody come out and clean it out and stuff like that. I like everything I saw, except I'm not a fan of prairie grass.
Mayor, I'm glad you brought that up because I talked to IDOT a little bit about that. There are so many different kinds of what we typically call prairie grass. There's just tons of different kinds, and IDOT actually does not want tall growing plants of any nature, whether they're bushes or grasses or flower. Well, there aren't too many flowers that get 5 feet tall, but they have specific kinds of grasses that have a maturity height that are not so tall that they fall over, which I think is one of the maintenance problems you're talking about. And how these would be planted is a little bit different than how you would see them planted maybe in a nature area. These would be planted more like we plant them in parks. So like if you look at the new park, Erin Hills, that just got planted, there are a couple of bunches of prairie grasses, but they're very small. They're not overwhelming. They're not groups of 20 by 30 squares. They're small punches that you put in amongst other things. So they actually end up being more like a bush than like a traditional prairie grass that you would typically think of. So I'm glad you brought that up because I want to clarify that. It's probably not the traditional feeling or look that you might be thinking of.
Okay, Trustee Costa.
Yes. Also, I mean, we keep in mind a couple things. You mentioned a number of communities around our area. They have public works departments.
Right.
They have people that can go out there and weed and straighten the mulch out after big heavy rainstorms and take care of everything. So we don't have that. So we do have to be careful. And again, what we do and how much we do. Also, if you look at most of the pictures that are out, that the examples that were given to us, I believe that most of our islands are going to be 24 to 28 feet wide.
Well, they range from 3 to 28, and there are a lot of them that are in the 6-foot range, 12-foot. They're not continuous. They adjust, and the more that IDOT is making adjustments to the plan, which they have recently made some additional adjustments in terms of access, the more varied they get in terms of planting. Some of them might be 28 feet wide, but they have turn lanes in them, and so then the medians get shrunk on either side.
Yeah, I would just be cautious on, if we're going to go curb to curb with mulch,
right,
plantings, I don't know what that'll look like. So
right.
Just be, and the one picture that we had, I wish I would have remembered what photograph it was. And we talked about this once before.
Go ahead.
Where you have approximately if you look at photograph 21.
All right, right there.
We can see it's more narrow, but what I really liked about that is you have about that 12 or 14 inch concrete on the side.
Right.
And, I think that'd make it look a little cleaner.
Okay.
Rather than just, that's my opinion.
All right, I think it's a good opinion. That's an add-on. That does, we do have to
course.
pay for that, yeah.
IDOT.
The interesting thing because we talked about that, because I think either you or another trustee brought that up. I'm glad you brought it up tonight so I can relay what IDOT said. What they thought, they don't do this anymore except by request, and then you have to pay for it. And the reason they don't do it anymore is because they thought that the result of this would be that the grasses would be farther away, grasses and trees would be farther away from the edge of pavement, and therefore the salt would affect them less. That was their ultimate goal, to get a little bit more pavement back. And what they have found, and you can actually see it by this picture a little bit, but is that it doesn't. The salt hits it, bounces up into the grass right next to it. So they have the same problem that they had when the grass was all the way to the curb. And yet the further problem, Trustee Costa, on maintenance is those are installed in 20-foot lengths. So every 20 feet you have a crack. And guess what happens in those cracks? Weeds. And so if you go down and look at this, actually I was just there today. If you go look on Route 53 in Romeoville, you will see that their public works crews have been through with a whatchamacallit, and have had to take weeds out of each one of those cracks. And that would be a maintenance problem too. You don't typically see that happen as much in curbs. But on the back of her, so I'm glad you brought that up, because I talked with IDOT about that after our last meeting.
You know what I would recommend, because we had 6 trustees and a mayor sitting here playing landscaper. I mean.
Well, Mayor, the reason
let me finish. Yeah. My recommendation would be you get a firm that we give them a general idea, if we agree with staff recommendations, and you have a landscape firm lay it out.
IDOT actually does that. IDOT doesn't accept any landscape firm plans from anyone else. IDOT has a crew of landscapers that figure all this stuff out.
So
what they need from us is just the general
Okay, so we
feeling.
would see back what it's actually going to look.
Right.
They would do like a drawing of, if we said we wanted this, that, the next thing.
Right. They will put together plans because they have to be bid on and stuff like that. So what they want from us, what they want from the board is, okay, they want to know, do you want trees? Do you want grass? Do you want some plantings? And then what I do is that we put together this letter that you guys will act on, and that Mike and I and anybody that wants to go with us will go up to Schaumburg. We'll sit down with them, and they want pictures from other communities of things that you like, which is why I have the pictures in here. So I can take them and say, okay, this is an example of what we like. And then they will take it and they will design it and install it and give us a cost estimate if they feel that the landscaping is above and beyond what they normally would do. But I don't think it will be.
Okay, to keep this sort of plain and straightforward and moving.
Right.
I think if I have it correct, everybody, when we discuss this on multiple occasions, wants landscaped islands. They want some trees. They want some, whatever you call them, those bursts every once in a while of color. So I would just say whoever wants to be part of, the layout of this, go with the staff up to Schaumburg when you go and you look at these pictures and what have you, because I'm not going to be there.
Right. Mayor, I want to make one final point. We have obviously had a conversation with Commissioner DeVivo about this too, because obviously, west of Cedar, he's got to make his own decisions about the medians west of Cedar, and Michael has indicated that he'll take the lead of what the village is doing. He'll take into consideration what the village board, all purple flowers apparently from this end of the dais, but he has seen this. He actually went with me to see. This is Woodridge's. 75th Street. He likes the cleanliness of this. There's trees down the middle with grass on both sides that can be easily mowed. I think this is probably the baseline of what Michael intends to do from Cedar out to the toll road, and then he may be willing to add some punches of color and stuff like that too to follow our lead. So just wanted to mention that.
Okay, Trustee DeVivo?
I just want to add one more thing. I didn't see, although I do see, I've paid more attention now than ever in landscaped islands, ground cover. And I know you didn't really mention it, but I have seen it out there, and it doesn't look bad, and it seems to look like it holds up well.
Right. And IDOT said that too, that it holds up great. The trouble with ground cover, when you don't have a public works department, ground cover traps trash really badly, because it, it doesn't roll over the grass like a paper bag would. It gets caught in the ground cover. So IDOT literally said, if you're concerned about trash and you're concerned about the picking up of trash, be leery of ground cover. Try to plant things that trash can roll around. So that's one of the reasons for that. That's a
Okay,
good
are we all
question.
pretty consistent?
Can I
with-
just
go
ask
ahead,
one
sure.
question? Yes, I agree with what you're saying here, but here's the only thing. We don't have a public works department
Right.
right now. So
Right.
What we have to,
This
we
is
just
what
have to make sure that we're all set on this, that we
Right.
can.
This is what Michael and I would like. First of all, it's 3.5 miles. It's a long stretch. You will see a lot of trees and grass. Okay, there's not going to be punches of color every 20 feet. I mean, you'll see a lot. And grass is so easy to maintain. It's easy to do that contract. It's easy to let that contract. And so you will see a lot of this. And this isn't a bad thing to see. This is a very clean, good look, especially when you know that the development on either side is going to have a lot of more intensive landscaping, like the Richards that we just approved tonight and stuff. So you will see a lot of this, but I think the punches of color at the main intersections is important. And then just to break it up so that you don't have, like I said, 3 whole miles of this, every once in a while, we can do some of those plantings that you saw. So.
Okay. I think anybody that would like to, be involved in the layout and design of this should go with the village staff to
Right.
Schaumburg. And that offer is open to anybody on this board.
Very good. And then at the next meeting, we'll have the letter and the motion that kind of just gives this general conveyance of information to IDOT. We'll have that on your board for approval next time. Now, Michael has lighting to talk about.
Go right
I
ahead.
had a
And,
question. Before we leave the subject. I think there's an assumption here that the highway department is going to take care of the maintenance. Is that what?
No.
there's
No,
not.
the assumption is that we will have to let a contract for the maintenance of this. I've talked about that all the way through. So like our regular mowing contract that we currently have for the Heroes Trail and various other public properties that we own, this will now become a part. This will be added acreage to that annual situation. Now, in addition to that, obviously, we will have to have, Michael did say that he would take care of the trees, as he does in all of our public parkways. So when the trees need trimming and stuff like that, he said that he would maintain the trees. But when it comes to the grass that needs to be mowed and any shrubbery or any kind of stuff, we will have to contract that out.
Well, why don't we hire a company that does everything? That does everything, including the trees?
Well, we could do that. When Commissioner DeVivo offers to do something for us free of charge, I never say no. But when we get to that point, we can absolutely do that. It would be up to the board, just policy decision.
Okay.
My other question was, did IDOT give you any indication of how many trees they were thinking about putting in?
When I said, first of all, the suggestion for every 30 to 40 feet is their suggestion, and based on their years of experience, so it's a lot of trees. If you take every 30 to 40 feet, I think the last time that we did some figuring on it, it was a couple hundred trees.
And when you
a lot of trees.
go to Schaumburg
3.5
and get
miles.
involved in this process, you're going to find out exactly how many they're willing to pay for.
And I would say it's great.
Space them appropriately then.
It's great that they're paying for it, but as those of us who've been in the business for a long time know that IDOT actually, by law, is required to plant a certain number of trees with their road projects, either on the project or in an area adjacent to. So, that helps fulfill their requirements too.
Okay.
So,
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. Yeah, as the village manager had mentioned, IDOT is looking for an answer for the 2 remaining items, the landscape medians and, of course, then the street lighting. Also, we're looking to, basically, the section in Homer Glen is approximately 3.5 miles long. Now, IDOT has basically given us 3 options as far as what we want to do with the lighting. First option is nothing. We don't have to do any lighting, and obviously that's the least expensive one. The second option is the intersections only. This is the one that the village staff is recommending. Obviously, this is going to be, it's still providing a level of safety at the intersections, but of course it's a reasonable cost still. The 3 intersections that would be lit are Bell Road, basically going north of 159th Street, Bell Road going south from 159th Street, Parker Road, and then, of course, then the section between the two Bell Roads would also be included in that intersection, that section as well. IDOT has stated in their letter of intent that the approximate cost to light the intersections only would be $414,000.
Mike, one of the things you should probably just clarify with them is the Will Cook thing.
Well, the Will Cook, basically, IDOT hadn't included anything in their letter of intent for the Will Cook. I'm just going off of that. Now, I'm not exactly sure if we wanted to do the lighting for the full length, then of course we would be going up to Will Cook.
One of the things we probably want to consider is, because we don't have the full intersection of Will Cook, obviously, Orland plays a role in that, but we probably want to consider, if we're doing the other major intersections, that we at least address the western side of Will Cook. We have obviously a daycare center there and a lot of traffic with the gas station and the liquor store and now with Richards, so we want to make that as safe as possible. So that that might be in addition to the other intersection that Mike's talking about. Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
No. As far as as I mentioned, if the village wanted to light the remaining sections of 159th Street between the intersections, IDOT has estimated that cost at $1,369,650. That would be in addition to the $414,000 just for those intersections. So basically, what also, just to kind of step back a little bit, this has been discussed several times at the village board meeting, and there were several questions that were raised by the board that we had approached IDOT with, just to get some answers with and clarify some of the things. One of the questions is whether or not the lighting could be included or installed in the median. IDOT had stated because of the turn lanes, because of the type of lighting, it really is kind of frowned upon to try to put the lighting in the medians. Also, if the board does go forward with the landscaping in the median, that would, of course, interfere, the trees and whatever would interfere with the lighting as well. Next question was related to whether or not the village would be responsible for the electric costs. IDOT had stated yes, the village, of course, would be responsible for the construction cost 100%, and then, of course, the electric and maintenance costs would be the entire responsibility of the village. Question was raised regarding holiday lighting. If the village was interested in having some kind of holiday lighting system included in this, would that be possible? IDOT had stated that yes, that would be possible. The design or the construction for that would be 100% the village's responsibility, as well as an additional 15% cost for the design of it. The question was also raised whether or not at this time could we just put conduit in at various locations to accommodate future lighting. IDOT had stated that they did not approve of that because lighting standards could change, different things, driveways can change, so there's too many variables down the road if the lighting was put in down the road that things could be different, so they did not agree that that was something that they could do.
Yeah, they were pretty adamant about that. I think that they had a couple instances where they did that and it did not turn out well. The wires deteriorated, there were all sorts of problems, so they were even stronger than Mike's indicated. They said that doesn't happen, that won't happen. So
another question is whether or not the lighting could be designed to meet our ordinance as far as the dark sky and that type of lighting system. IDOT did state that the lighting would be full cutoff, but it's more for the anti-glare aspects of the lighting rather than the actual dark sky type requirements. And then also, we did ask them if there was any way that they could do the lighting to conform with our lighting ordinances. Their response was that any proposed system must conform to the District 1 general guidelines for lighting design as well as the Illuminating Engineer Society standards. Getting back to, just to give the board some ideas as far as if they were to go with lighting at just the intersections, I handed out some brief exhibits showing some current photos and then, of course, an exhibit of Parker Road. Right now, Gauger Road is that intersection is fully lit, and it was only done, I believe, in 2007 as part of the I-355 project. So it's pretty good idea of what type of lighting that would, if we decided to go with the lighting at just the intersections, this would give a good idea as far as the type of lighting that would be included. When IDOT states that they're doing lighting at an intersection, they're not doing it directly at the intersection only. There will be what they call approach lighting. If you turn to the Parker Road exhibit, the larger one, I've kind of given an example of what the lighting could potentially look like at Parker Road, where potentially the light poles could be located. The black dots directly around the intersection, obviously those would be the ones lighting the intersection only. But then, of course, the red dots are showing the potential approach lights. Taking the measurements at Gauger Road, approximately the lighting spacing is about 250 feet. So this exhibit is showing the lighting at the same, basically at the same spacing and the same design standards as what's on Gauger Road. So it would give the board a good idea of what this intersection and these same parameters could potentially be used for the other intersections as well, just to give an idea of what, you know, the number of poles, the approximate spacing of the poles as well too. So, and I've shown some photos of both Gauger Road, which shows the type of lighting that's there, the approach lights at both. The top photo is westbound on 159th Street. The second photo for Gauger Road is south. It's looking south into the intersection from Gauger Road. And then just to give you an idea as well too, the same type of lighting exists on 159th Street near Costco in Orland, right at Ravinia Avenue, where they have the same, it's the same approach lights, roughly the same spacing, the same number of poles. Like I said, just to give the board an idea of the type of lighting. And again, IDOT is looking to try to get an answer as soon as possible so that they can incorporate these into their plans. So again, if it's possible, we would like to be able to bring a letter, bring this back to the board next meeting, try to get a response from the board so that we can submit a letter to IDOT as soon as possible.
My opinion on it is that we go with the intersection lighting. It looks as though there's going to be much more lighting than just the intersection with the approach lighting. And then what you're going to have as that street develops, businesses are going to want to show off, you know, with the lighting on their building, you know. They're also going to probably have some type of lighting for their entryways and what have you. So I think the approach lighting, intersection lighting is fine. That's my opinion. The other thing I wanted to ask about, when you're talking about holiday lighting, is the holiday lighting only where there's going to be approach lighting or intersection lighting? They probably run conduit under the road, so there has to be a power source. So is that the full, or if you say holiday lighting, is the full length of the road, or is it only where you have approach lighting? And
It's where the poles are located. It's where
Yeah,
the.
I'm
it's where the
sure
poles-
if you really wanted to, they'd probably put it wherever you want to spend the money. But of course, the further you get away from the intersections, the more costly it's going to get.
Mayor, what they're really talking about on that is I did this in my previous community. They're talking about electrifying the light poles that you're seeing. Okay, so that if you want to put up wreaths or something that requires electricity during the holidays, you could also put up banners, obviously, that
so
would
they're
require.
they're not talking about the island. It's
No, there'll be no electricity in the islands.
No
Yeah, this is
electricity,
totally about the poles.
Okay.
So that if you want to, like a lot of communities have,
misunderstanding you. I thought you were talking about
holiday
the-
wreaths that have lights on them or something.
Actually, the question that we did have was whether or not the lighting could be put in the medians, and that was the response. They would do it, but that,
We're not
again, that would be
recommending.
100% our cost.
Right.
Okay.
We're not
Gotcha.
recommending it mostly because we know there's gonna be a couple hundred trees.
Right.
You know, just lighting the intersection down here costs like $700, $800. Okay, just, what is there, 6, 7, 8 trees? So we knew that it wouldn't be practical because we could never afford to do that much lighting.
Gotcha.
So that's one of the reasons why we did it.
Trustee Yukich?
I just have a question. Looking at the pictures before when they were showing how long of a stretch of lights you would have at the intersections, you're not going to have trees, and you could actually cut down on lights because you can put one in the middle with 2 hang-offs on both sides, kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and not screw up the sidewalk because the the lamps are gonna have to be put where the sidewalk goes.
You're talking about installing the lights in the middle?
Correct.
Actually, do you think you were a little bit too gentle about that description? Because I thought IDOT said they would not
Yeah,
put
they-
lights in the middle.
Yeah, they definitely frowned against it because
Yeah.
of the turn lanes. What happens is as you get the turn lanes, now you're shifting things over. The medians do get narrower. It's probably more of a safety issue because now you don't have that, the setbacks. It's kind of right in the middle.
They
But-
were pretty insistent about the lights being on either side of the road.
Okay.
Trustee Costa?
Also, I noticed, they have a specific number. If you just go back on the drawing, it's about 750 feet, roughly 800 feet from the intersection. Can they cut that down and just have like two lights?
It's per their standards. So when they're following both their standards and then the Illuminating Engineer Society, there are specific guidelines as far as for the speeds, for the type of roads, the type of pavement, how much lighting you want. Because what happens is they don't want to just put it right at the lights because then it's also a driver aspect as far as for driver fatigue, driver comfort, those sorts of things where you don't want to all of a sudden, boom, and you're in a huge bright thing. So they want to kind of slowly, almost kind of get you acclimated to the lighting as you approach the most dense part of it, the intersection.
Right. One of the reasons it's kind of important is as a part of this project, existing lighting that's along the roadway is all coming down. So you think about, we're all familiar, we keep talking about the Will Cook side. So there is a light right now at Twin Lakes.
Yeah, there's actually...
That lighting is coming down. It's not going to be there anymore because it's in the right of way.
Yeah, there's actually 13 lights right now that are on 159th Street. It's a little bit confusing because IDOT shows 5 of those as being relocated. 4 of them are actually on ComEd poles, so those will definitely come down. And then there's 4 questionables where they're showing them as being removed, but they're not showing them as being replaced. And
Right.
Twin Lakes is one of them.
Right, so there's some areas like that Twin Lake intersection, which actually is going to be even more important now. The traffic there is going to be bigger because the access point issue, and of course Richards too. So bringing the light back that's one of the reasons I'm kind of so insistent about Will Cook. Bringing that light back from Will Cook, the western side, is really important because that Twin Lake light is going away.
What is the cost breakdown for when you say approach lights and the lights at intersections? Is it 100% IDOT or is it split?
The village is responsible for any street lighting costs, 100%. The cost for the intersections were $414,000, and then the intermediates were about 1.4 million, 1.3 and a half million.
Yeah, if we were
when you
putting
say
lights,
intermediaries, are you talking about the approach lights?
No, the intermediates are just the between the intersections.
Okay, gotcha.
So that doesn't, the approach lights are part of the actual intersection.
Okay,
lights.
so if we did approach lights and at the intersections, we're talking 400 and some thousand?
right.
Okay.
Yeah, if you would install these types of lights the whole length, all 3.5 miles,
Right.
they're
I get
saying
it.
it would have been 1.4
I get it.
million, yeah.
Am I getting it right that we got to stay with the approach lights and the intersection lights and keep it to 400,000 at this point?
Yes.
Okay. And then as far as metering these lights for power to be able to plug in for seasonal type of events, what additional cost is it to have them powered up?
We
They-
can check into that.
Yeah, they don't have a cost yet. That would be something that depends on, I guess, what we would tell them what we want.
we could do in your action next week is we could say that we want that, and then remember, after they get the quotes back on how much that's gonna cost, we have an opportunity to step out from it. So this is the opportunity to tell them that we
Okay.
want it. If it comes back and they tell you,
Yeah.
it's gonna cost $100,000 to electrify the lights then you may say, no way. If
Gotcha.
they say 10,000, you may say, yeah.
As I recall, through these discussions over the years, we can take stuff out of the quote, but we can't add stuff in once they've done their engineering.
Right.
Exactly.
So put it in, and we can always say no.
Right.
Okay? Is there any Trustee Sabo?
Yeah, what do you mean by take stuff out? Like what kind of stuff?
So here's an example. If we do the landscaping, I'll go back to landscaping for a moment, and we show them these pictures and say, these are what our expectations are, and then they draw the plans and they get the quotes and they say, oh, this exceeds what we normally do, so it's not going to be completely free. It's going to cost you $120,000 to do this landscaping. Well, then the board has the opportunity to say, you know what, we want to get back on the free side of that column. So what can we remove to get back to free so we don't have to spend $120,000? That's what I mean.
See, if you don't say you're considering it, you want it in the plans, they won't redo the plans.
Yeah.
They add it
Right.
in.
Right, if
But
you go to a-
if you go all the way, you can take stuff out, eliminate stuff due to cost.
Right.
Yeah, I'm thinking of some of the intersection around the two bells. You know, the two bells are really very close together. So, what kind of adjustment are they going to make there? Because there's such a short span. This could be a really overlit area.
I mean, it'll still be, you know, that, again, that's probably the most concentrated as far as our business is right now. But, I mean, as far as the lighting, I mean, it's gonna be the same for each intersection.
They won't put the lights, 50 feet apart from each other just because it's a short area. They'll still stick with their standards, So you won't see all this, go and see these lights that are 200 feet apart, then all of a sudden they're 50 feet apart. So they'll stick with their standards on that. And if they only need 2 lights instead of 3 or something like that, that's what they'll design and do.
All right, so you're saying there's some adjustments, and they're not saying one size fits all.
Yeah, they have to take into consideration the roadways.
Yeah, I mean, when they're doing the design, basically, they're going to, especially at the intersections, there's a lot of shifting things around so that it meets the lighting standards, so that they balance out basically the dark spots and the bright spots and whatever. So there's going to be some adjustments there.
Okay, so just a question, just your estimate. So besides, so how many lights do you think that there will be, including the approach lights coming from the east, coming from the west on 159th Street, plus the light on South Bell and on Bell? How many lights do you think that there's going to be there?
If we lit the entire roadway or just the intersections?
I'm just talking about intersections.
My estimate was roughly, I mean, if we took the spacing that is similar to Gauger Road, you're probably looking at 60 to 70 lights for all the intersections.
You said how many?
60 to 70.
60 to 70. I'm just
Total.
talking about
Total.
Bell.
Not per intersection.
Is that going
No, I'm,
That would be both Bells and the Parker Road, and then the intermediate.
The intersection.
Roughly about 20 lights per intersection.
20 lights per intersection.
Right, you have both sides and sometimes 4.
20 lights per intersection, and how many lights do we have per intersection now?
Well, this is, I mean, if you kind of consider Gauger, I mean, it'll be our intersection soon, probably, portions of it. So if you kind of consider that, that gives you a little bit of an idea of what we have now. I mean, we don't have a formal lighting system now. It's kind of catch by catch can up and down the road for various reasons. I don't know why some of them were installed, some of them weren't. And,
some of them like
there's not a light at Hidden Valley, but there's one at Twin Lakes. I don't.
Okay.
And think about this, 20 per intersection.
Well, that's approach lights too.
And that's approach light. That is really a lot of light compared to what there is there now. So.
Yeah, but you're also talking about their standards, and you're also talking about when you say what's there now, what's there now is 1 lane in each direction. What's going to be in the future is 2 lanes in each direction with 2 turning lanes done to their standards. So they space the approach lights out so far, and they do so many per intersection. I mean, that's just
my point in
standard.
bringing this up is that there's going to be an extreme change. Very, very extreme change.
Yeah, it will be a change. I think the challenge now is that you have a major road, but you don't have an organized lighting system because of the nature of how the community developed and whatnot. So you don't find too many major road systems like this today that don't have a organized lighting system, and this will be an organized lighting system. One of the reasons why, we did the numbers, we looked at the numbers, had we lit up the entire road, because initially, when staff started talking about it, we were really thinking about bringing forward a proposal that was to light the entire street, from one end to the other, because we refer to this as a commercial corridor, and we thought, well, obviously a consistent lighting stream all the way through the corridor will definitely define it. And then as we looked at the intersections and how far back they went, and some of our intersections are close, like you pointed out in the Bells, we get a considerable amount of lighting just doing the intersections at a much reduced cost. But it will be different, Trustee Salvo. It's an organized system, and you don't have one now. Like I said, you have entrances to subdivisions that don't have lights, entrances to subdivisions that do. I don't know why maybe some developers were asked to put one up, some weren't. I'm not sure why that is, but this will be very organized, and it'll make sense, and every intersection will look similar to the next, so that as you're driving in these dark days like today, you would expect to see the same kind of lighting approaching every intersection.
Well, it's also, to put in continuous roadway lighting would be very costly. I mean, and there's nothing there now, nothing to speak of.
That's another reason why we didn't recommend it, yeah.
We have to think of the taxpayers, and the taxpayers foot the bill.
Right.
And I think we'd be very careful about this. So no lighting is not an option.
Well, we're opting to just do the approach lighting and the lights at the intersections. That's the minimum. So
one of the great things
we are doing the minimum.
And
one of the great things about the finances is when we did the bond, when we listed all the costs for the bond, which are public information, they're on the website, we actually included the 1.4 million. That was That was a part of the bond scenario. So if you only pick the 400,000, you'll actually have $1 million that we plan for in the bond that you're not going to be using for elections.
I think we all get it. We're picking the minimum lighting schedule here. There'll be additional lighting with the businesses as they develop. Are there any further questions?
Yes, I did.
Go right ahead.
Okay. Did they explain what type of lights?
I don't have that information available right now, but typically they're going to probably be 250 to 500 or 400 watt pole height. Typically they're going to be aluminum poles. Pole heights are probably 40 to 50 feet. I'd have to check to see what type they're using right now.
Okay. Why don't you get back to Margaret after you talk with IDOT?
Yeah, I'd like to know a little bit more about detail. We did speak to some of the, during the open house, we did speak to some of the IDOT people.
Sure, I can get you
Okay.
that.
But I just think we need to know and have a clear answer.
Okay. Any further questions, answers? Okay. That concludes the workshop items for tonight. Is there any old business? Okay. Under new business, I just wanted to bring you up to speed. We're dealing with, I commonly refer to it as the Boo property. As you have in your package, it's a proposed annexation and recapture agreement that's been prepared by our attorney that their attorney is also reviewing at this point. We're very close to the annexation of the Boo property. So why don't you take this home and read it? And if you have any questions, please contact myself or the village manager, and we can adjust it as we're working with Champion Realty is representing the Boo property. So, with that being said, is there any other new business?
So no questions now.
For the agreement, you need to read it. It's like
Well, read some of it.
30 pages long. Okay, is there any other new business? Okay. Then, if there's no other new business, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of discussing land acquisition.
So moved.
First by trustee Costa.
Second.
Second by trustee Yukich. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We're going to go into executive session. We'll take 5 to answer any reporters' questions. What's up? No property is for sale.